He possessed courage. He first disapproved of oyster rules and cobwebs, which may capture tiny flies but allow wasps and hornets to enter. When someone is enraged, they are looking for retribution for their own mistakes. A woman can't always remain youthful, so she should always be a sensible and pleasant companion. The truth lags behind the falsehood as it takes off. It is a dreadful thing to live in suspense, so treat each day as though it were your last. When a great intellect enters the world, it is the spider's life. You may be able to identify him by the fact that all the idiots are conspiring against him. Our ideas are covered by words. One adversary can cause more harm than 10 allies can. No one is as blind as those who refuse to see. Making others feel at ease is the skill of having good manners. The most polite person is the one who causes the least amount of discomfort. The enjoyment of people who cannot think is found in entertainment. Among the world's top medical professionals, a doctor's diet merry man and quiet. Doctors never once did a smart guy wish they were younger. Books for brainchild readers. The skill of perceiving the unseen is known as vision. The flea is usually represented as larger, while elephants are always depicted as smaller than life size. Rich nations are haughty, while poor ones are starving. May God grant you long and healthy lives, and pride and hunger will never be in conflict. A tavern is a location where bottles of insanity are sold. Young women spend more time creating nets than making cages, which is why there are so few happy marriages. The genuine concept of style is made up of correct words in proper contexts. In this world, the only thing that is constant is permanency. We enjoy it when others make fun of our wit, but not our ignorance. There is no such absurdity that philosophers won't support this reality in some way. There are relatively few people who will admit when they have made a mistake. It is pointless to make an effort to convince a guy of something. He never entered into an argument, which is the worst kind of dialogue. Cutting off our passions in order to satisfy our needs is as cruel as amputating our feet. When we need shoes, I frequently wonder why men are not humiliated, but I never wonder why men are evil. The finest people to explain, interpret, and apply laws are those whose skills and interests are perverted. Their confusion and evasion. Every man wants to live a long life, but nobody wants to get old. Complaints make up the majority of our prayers and are the most heartfelt. A soldier is a yahoo recruited to murder as many members of his own species who have never insulted him in cold blood as it is humanly possible, so that conflicts might be resolved like in war. In order to give the impression that it is stronger than it actually is, the weak side started fires and made a lot of noise. Because a war may pass for a virtue, lead by blushing on occasion. A fool may appear to be a wise guy due to his humility. No one has the ability to dislike impudence. However, without it, women perceive males in the same way as a cat perceives a mouse. Except when employed to save the defenseless, power is not a good thing in and of itself. The amount of religion in our country is exactly enough to incite hatred, but not enough to inspire mutual love. Superior cunning cannot be defended against by honesty. Being well fooled is the source of continuous happiness. Because their businesses are already overflowing, the workers and cottagers keep their kids at home and farm the land. Their education consequently has minimal impact on the general populace. When people arrive under the seat, it is too late for falsehood to fly and truth to lamely follow it. Dream to see your dream's beauty. In the future, you'll take your place. Philosophers are certainly correct when they assert that nothing is large or small in the absence of philosophy. In contrast, there is only continuous improvement in the world, not total achievement. Never be ashamed to acknowledge that you were mistaken. It just goes to show how much wiser you are now, more than yesterday. A fight is everyone's favorite pastime, including men, kids, and other animals. Actually, not many individuals genuinely live for today. We don't know how most people are prepared to live in paradise afterwards, but we are fully aware of what they avoid doing. They chose not to wed. Satire is a type of glass where the beholder typically sees everyone's face but their own, which is the main factor in the receptivity it receives from people throughout the world. And that so few people find it offensive, due to any cause. Without the permission of the governed, all governance is, by definition, slavery. No one can defy reason without forfeiting their claim to being a rational being. Because coffee makes us somber, philosophical, and stern, we forget to be kind but never forget to be hurt. When they are at school, men are at their most somber, thoughtful, and focused. Anyone who does harm to their benefactor must be an enemy of all of humanity. He owes no debts to anyone. As a result, he is unable to survive. No one is more prone to jealousy than those who are self-obsessed. The latter stages of a smart person's life are devoted to eradicating the misconceptions, biases, and incorrect beliefs they acquired earlier in life. For example, never keep your word in court and maintain your composure at all times. Due to the fact that Gulliver's watch is something he confesses to seldom doing without consulting, the tiny Lilliputians speculated that it may be his god. You have done a lot of good for someone if they have seen you turn bad for them. Some men try to remove integrity, honesty, and religion under the guise of eradicating prejudice. This shows how difficult it is for a man to try to uphold his honor among others who are not completely equal. When compared to him, the truth is more apparent and is clothed in poetry. Being modest only offers benefits, since unappreciated love is unpredictable and unstable. Esteem devoid of love, it is chilly and lazy. The greatest sacrifices rendered to rulers are of such little significance when weighed against men's unwillingness to indulge their impulses. Love comes from desire, and love produces desire in women. Books only have one route to enter the world, just like their writers. However, 10,000 people will leave it and never come back. Everything ought to be different on the inside. However, our appearance should blend in with the population. Anyone who has the power to enrage you becomes your slave. The first guideline is to have a calm spirit. The second is to confront reality head-on and recognize things for what they are. Consider how fortunate you are to be alive and to have the ability to think, appreciate, and love when you first wake up. You have control over your thoughts, not on external occasions. Knowing this will give you the courage you need. He suffers more than is required. Who endures suffering before it is required? Be like the cliff that the waves repeatedly crash against, but it maintains its position and controls the surrounding water's ferocity. Men have one tongue but 2 ears, according to nature. However, we could listen twice as much as we say. People are thrifty when it comes to protecting their own stuff, but when it comes to wasting time, they are the most wasteful of the one item where it is appropriate to be economical. Begins, it wants to exist and treats every day as a unique life. You don't need to be somewhere else if you genuinely want to get away from the things that bother you. Nonetheless, to be someone else. Up until we start living without them. We don't know how many items we use are needless because we have them rather than because we need them. No wind is advantageous for a man if he is unsure about his port of departure. Here is a guideline to keep in mind going forward when something tempts you to feel resentful. We all love ourselves more than other people, yet care more about their opinions than our own. Not that this is bad luck, but that you can handle it honorably. A man does not waste time debating what a decent man ought to be because he conquers the world by conquering himself. Be one of the things you consider. Analyze the state of your thinking. Avoid doing something if it is wrong. Do not mention anything that is not truthful. Everything we hear is an opinion, not a reality. What matters is how you respond to what occurs to you, not what it is that you experience. Every view we have is a viewpoint. That is not the case. When opportunity and preparation are there, luck results. The poor man is not the one who has too little, but the one who longs for more. All wisdom starts with knowing oneself. The difficulty reveals the nature of mankind. Being everywhere means being nowhere. Everybody is smiling at death. All we can do is return with a grin. The less control we have, the more we appreciate things beyond our control. A person's value is determined by the value of the things they value, because nothing lasts except change. Accept that others will think you are stupid and foolish if you want to get better. If uncontrolled, anger frequently causes us more harm than the damage it was sparked by. No one ever becomes intelligent by accident. The ability to reject your perception of injury and have the actual injury go away is available to the brave. The willing follow fate's lead. The unwilling were dragged. Everything we do now has an eternal impact. As we wait for life, life goes by. The person who completes their life every day never runs out of time. It's time for you to understand that you possess a force and a miracle greater than anything that may harm you, and force you to juggle like a puppet. Wealth doesn't come from having plenty of material things, rather, it comes from having a few things that are mostly silent. Or, if you must talk, say a little more than is absolutely required. The root of all brutality is weakness. The path that leads to greatness is a difficult one. Live each moment as though it were your last, and behave accordingly. Everything that may happen at any time can happen right now. Keep your philosophy to yourself. Embody it because it appears difficult for you. Don't imagine that anybody can achieve freedom. It is guaranteed not by gratifying men's wishes, but by eliminating desire. Situations do not make a guy. Only he can see who they are. A man should fear death, but rather the terror of never starting to live. The secret is to exclusively hang out with positive individuals that inspire you and motivate you to perform at your best. For the benefit of one another, humans have evolved. Thus, either educate them or learn to give birth to them. Only when it destroys your character can it damage your life. If not, it will not hurt you from the inside out. The caliber of your thinking determines how happy your life will be. Writing and reading will demand much greater mastery. Life for those who forget the past, ignore the present, and worry about the future. Life is extremely brief and stressful. Be rigorous with yourself, yet be tolerant with others. Your days are running out. Utilize them to widen the sun-facing windows of your spirit. If you don't, the sun will set soon and you will be left behind. Being unlike him is the finest kind of retaliation. He caused the harm. It takes bravery sometimes just to survive. Not because we have limited time, but rather because we waste a lot of it. Whatever transpires, everything takes place as it ought to. This will prove to be true. If you pay close attention, our lives are what our ideas create. How much more tragic are the results of rage than their origins? A person who is afraid of dying would never do anything honorable for a man who is still living. Only now do we exist. The rest is either history or unknown. Progress can only be made by working on oneself every day, not by chance or accident. Feasts, too. Keep in mind that you host two guests, body and soul, and that you quickly discard everything you feed the body. But you always keep what you offer to the soul. No one has the ability to have everything they desire, but they do have the ability to choose not to seek what they lack and to gleefully use what they do have. Even if you own the entire world, if you feel insufficient, you will still be unhappy. Whoever has control over himself is the most powerful. Just as effort fortifies the intellect, difficulties do as well. There's a tail on the body, as is life. What counts is how well it is written, not how long it is. A good life should last a long time. Being silent is the best response to rage. Agreed. But just as it did with eating and drinking, nature imposed a limit on that. Men can find no more serene or trouble-free sanctuary than within their own selves. If weaker, spare him if stronger. He who suffered was either stronger or weaker than. The action is advanced when one avoids obstacles. What gets in the way of wanting to be well becomes the means to accept without arrogance. Release without effort. No magnificent item, like a cluster of grapes or a fig, appears out of nowhere. I respond that there must be time if you say you want a figure. Let it first flower, then mature, then produce fruit. Imagination causes us more suffering than reality does. Nobody can avoid their fate. The next question is how he can live his remaining time as good as he can. The future is entirely unclear. Live right now. Every new beginning has its predecessors, but for those who forget the past, ignore the present, and worry about the future, life is extremely brief and tense. Not because of the things that happen in our lives, but because of how we judge them. We can manage our attitude toward events, but not the events themselves. Nothing is natural disaster. Even death is awful if we worry that something bad will be said about us in it. And if it's accurate, make amends with yourself. If it is a false joke about it, regardless of what other people say or do, cling to what is spiritually better. Keep your actual ambitions in mind. Whatever is happening in the world around you, limit your thinking to the present. No man is free unless he is in control of himself. A happy life may be created with very little effort. Everything is within you and your way of thinking. You will never be impoverished if you live in harmony with the environment. You will never be wealthy if you conduct your life according to what people think. Learn to ignore things that don't matter. The greatest gifts that humanity has to offer are both within and accessible to us. A wise man is happy with his lot in life, whatever it may be, and does not yearn for what he does not have. A man is more troubled by his imagined fears about genuine difficulties than by actual ones. People with limited minds accuse others. People in general are at fault. The wise consider all the blaming to be absurd. Observe the past. Positivity is important. Although the life we are given is not brief, we ensure that we are well provided for. But we squander what we already have. Regardless of what life throws at you, maintain your composure. Is finished in the video. I appreciate you coming.